My husband grinned and said, "I love you, but I think we should see other people while staying together." I just smirked. The next morning, he checked his wallet. All his credit cards were declined, his phone plan was canceled, and a message from my lawyer simply read, "Goodbye." I never thought my life would take such a turn. My name is Laura, and for the past 10 years, I've been married to David. We built our lives together in Chicago, a city that had always been the backdrop to our love story. Our marriage had its ups and downs, whose doesn't, but I believed we had a solid foundation of trust and mutual respect. It was a chilly evening in late November. The wind howled outside our apartment, rattling the windows as if echoing the turmoil about to unfold within our walls. David had been unusually quiet during dinner, pushing his food around his plate more than eating it. I sensed something was amiss, but chose to let him speak when he was ready. After dinner, as we settled into our usual spots in the living room, David cleared his throat, breaking the silence that had settled between us. His eyes avoided mine, focusing instead on the flickering flames in the fireplace. "Laura," he began, his voice hesitant, "I've been thinking a lot lately about us." I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. Conversations that started this way rarely led to anything good. "I love you," he continued, finally meeting my gaze. "But I think we should see other people while staying together." For a moment, I thought I hadn't heard him correctly. The words seemed to hang in the air, their meaning sinking in slowly. An open marriage? After a decade together? I forced a smirk, masking the whirlwind of emotions churning inside me. "Is that so?" I replied, my voice steady despite the storm brewing within. David nodded, perhaps mistaking my reaction for agreement or understanding. "Yes, I believe it could bring a new spark to our relationship." I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I stood up, walked over to the window, and stared out at the city lights. My mind raced, processing his words, his intentions, and what they meant for our future. That night, David went to bed early, leaving me alone with my thoughts. I sat in the dimly lit living room, the only sound being the occasional honk of a car below. Memories of our years together flooded my mind, the good times, the challenges we overcame, the promises we made. As dawn approached, clarity emerged from the chaos of my thoughts. I knew what I had to do. The next morning, David's routine was disrupted. He attempted to pay for his morning coffee at our favorite cafe, only to find his credit card declined. Confused, he tried another, same result. Embarrassed, he left without his coffee, deciding to call the bank later. Returning home, he found his phone service had been disconnected. Frustration mounting, he turned on his laptop to send an email, only to discover an unread message from my lawyer. The subject line was simple: "Goodbye." David's world, which he sought to expand, had just imploded. I had spent the early hours of the morning taking decisive action. With the help of my attorney, I froze our joint accounts, canceled shared credit cards, and initiated divorce proceedings. I wasn't about to be sidelined in my own marriage. Packing my essentials, I left our apartment before David returned. I needed space, time to heal, and a fresh start. Staying with a close friend in the city, I began to rebuild my life, piece by piece. The days that followed were a blur of legal meetings, emotional upheavals, and moments of doubt. But with each passing day, I felt stronger, more in control of my destiny. David reached out multiple times, seeking explanations, perhaps hoping for reconciliation. But I had made my decision. Trust, once shattered, is challenging to rebuild. Months later, as I walked along the shores of Lake Michigan, the cold wind biting at my cheeks, I reflected on the journey I'd undertaken. Life had thrown an unexpected curveball, but I had emerged resilient. Chicago remained the same bustling city, but for me, it symbolized a new beginning. I was ready to embrace whatever came next, with my head held high and my heart open to new possibilities. I was just starting to breathe again when the next hit came. About 2 weeks after I left, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I usually let unknown numbers go to voicemail, but something in me said to answer. It was Sarah, David's younger sister. We'd always been close. She sounded nervous. I didn't know who else to call, she said. I think you should know. David's been telling everyone that you cheated. That you left because you met someone else. I felt my chest tighten. What? She went on. Apparently, David had been spinning some kind of wild version of our breakup. He told his family, his friends, even some of our mutual work contacts that I'd been having an affair for months and just walked out on him when I got caught. He claimed I drained our accounts out of revenge. The worst part? People were believing him. I wasn't prepared for this. I thought walking away would be the hardest part, but watching someone rewrite your story and paint you as the villain, that's a different kind of betrayal. I called my lawyer, furious. He advised me to stay calm, document everything, and avoid reacting emotionally. But that's easier said than done when your name is being dragged through the mud. Over the next few days, I started getting strange messages. Some from people I hadn't talked to in years. Some accusing, some confused. My inbox was filled with half apologies and weirdly worded condolences. A few people straight up called me a liar. And then, the weirdest thing happened. David showed up at my friend's apartment building. I saw him through the peephole. He looked calm, too calm. Like a guy showing up to drop off dry cleaning, not face the woman he'd betrayed and tried to gaslight the entire city about. I didn't open the door. He knocked, again, and again. Finally, he left a note under the door. It said, "You don't have to make this ugly. Let's talk. Just us." That line haunted me. It didn't sound like a man asking for peace. It sounded like a threat. I didn't respond. Instead, I started digging. See, David wasn't just careless with our relationship. He was careless with a lot of things, especially tech. He had an old iPad still connected to our cloud account. And he never logged out of his backup Gmail account, the one he thought I didn't know about. That's when I found the pictures. David hadn't just wanted an open marriage. He'd already been living one. For over a year. There were photos, videos, messages, names I recognized, some I didn't. He'd met women on dating apps, at bars, at networking events. He wasn't just cheating. He was organized about it. Spreadsheets, calendars, notes about who liked what. He treated it like a job. I sat there for hours, heart pounding, scrolling through the mess. There were even messages with a woman named Chloe, our real estate agent from last year. I remember thinking how she seemed too friendly, but I dismissed it. Stupid. I took everything I found and sent it to my lawyer. He called me an hour later. This changes everything. David didn't know I had this yet. He still thought he had control of the story. But he didn't know I was about to flip the whole thing on its head. I wasn't just going to defend myself. I was going to end this. And then? Something I didn't expect. A message popped up in that secret Gmail inbox. It was from one of the women. Her name was Teresa. She wrote, "I didn't know about you. I swear." He told me he was divorced. "I think we should talk." I messaged Teresa back the same night. I was cautious. Half of me didn't trust her, the other half needed to know more. She replied fast, almost like she was waiting for my response. We agreed to meet in a public place, a coffee shop in Wicker Park that was always busy. I spotted her immediately. She looked nervous, clinging to a to-go cup like it was a life raft. Late 20s, maybe 30. Pretty. Smart eyes. She stood up when she saw me. "I'm sorry," were her first words. She sat down and pulled out her phone. She had screenshots, dates, messages, voice memos. Some of them overlapped with major moments in my life. Our anniversary trip to Napa, my birthday last spring. While I was blowing out candles, he was texting her from the bathroom. But what she told me next hit harder than all of that. He said he was a venture capitalist. That he had investments in startups, that he traveled a lot. Said his ex-wife was crazy manipulative. I blinked. "Wait, ex-wife?" She nodded. "He told me you were divorced 3 years ago." He said he only stayed in Chicago part-time and had a place in Austin. My stomach turned. I had never even been to Austin with him. The man had built a whole fake life. While I was scheduling dentist appointments and paying utility bills, he was out here pretending to be some sort of tech mogul to other women. And that wasn't even the biggest twist. Teresa took a deep breath. There's something else. He asked to borrow money. That stopped me cold. She explained that David had claimed he was waiting on a big deal to close and needed to bridge a few expenses. She gave him $10,000. Cash. No paper trail. He promised to pay her back in a week. He never did, she said. And then he ghosted me. That's when I started digging and I found out about you. I was stunned. Not just because he took money, but because I realized this was bigger than just cheating. He was running a con. And apparently, Teresa wasn't the only one. Over the next few days, I heard from 2 other women. Both contacted me through the same email. Both had similar stories. One of them, Jenna, had been seeing him for almost 2 years. She thought he was divorced too. He told her I was dangerous and vindictive. Classic projection. But here's the kicker, Jenna wasn't just a random woman. She was a paralegal at the law firm that handled David's previous real estate case. That's how they met. She gave him confidential information more than once. This wasn't just betrayal. This was a legal nightmare waiting to explode. I brought everything to my lawyer. He went pale when I showed him the emails, screenshots, voice notes. He's committing fraud, he said. Multiple counts. And then he asked me the question that shifted everything. Laura, do you want to go public with this? I paused. I hadn't thought about that. I'd been so focused on surviving, I hadn't stopped to think about justice. About truth. About warning the next woman. Meanwhile, David had gone silent. No more knocks at the door. No more notes. I suspected he was catching wind that something was shifting. Maybe one of the women warned him. Or maybe he just sensed the walls closing in. Then, one morning, I opened my email and found a message from a burner account. No name, no reply option. It just said, "Stop. You don't know what you're starting." No signature. No context. But I knew exactly who sent it. He was scared. And that meant I finally had the upper hand. I wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. 2 weeks after the burner email, I set the trap. David didn't know I'd been working with a private investigator. He didn't know I had gathered more than just screenshots. I had statements, surveillance photos, bank transfers. Even a woman in Indiana, Melissa, who told me he used the same lines on her that he used on Teresa. His pattern was undeniable. This wasn't some messy midlife crisis. This was a calculated lifestyle built on lies, deceit, and manipulation. And I was done watching silently. With my lawyer's help, I organized a meeting. A mediation, officially. Unofficially? I wanted him in a room where he couldn't spin lies, couldn't twist words, couldn't walk away. My lawyer told him I would consider withdrawing the fraud claims and halting legal action if he agreed to come. He agreed. The meeting took place at a downtown office suite in the Loop. Clean, neutral, professional. My lawyer, David's lawyer, and me. He walked in wearing that fake calm smile he always used when he thought he was in control. The same smile he wore when he said, "Let's see other people." We sat across from each other. My hands trembled under the table, but I held his gaze. "Before we begin," I said, "there are a few people who wanted to say something." The door opened. Teresa walked in first. Her eyes were sharp, unblinking. Jenna followed. Then Melissa. Each took a seat behind me in silence. David's face went pale. He shifted in his chair. That smile? Gone. "This isn't a mediation," I said. "This is a reckoning." One by one, each woman told their story. Teresa talked about the money. Jenna talked about the lies. Melissa had receipts from hotels and texts where he promised to introduce her to his business partners, all imaginary. His lawyer looked like he was going to vomit. Then I showed the emails, the photos, the bank records, everything he never thought I'd see. "I thought you loved me," I said. My voice cracked. "I thought you were my husband." But I wasn't your wife. I was your cover. David didn't say a word. Not for a long time. Then, finally, in a voice that barely sounded like him, he said, I didn't mean for any of this to happen. You meant all of it, I snapped. You had a system. You kept notes. You lied every single day to me, to them, to yourself. He tried to shift blame, said he was depressed, said he felt like a failure, said the attention from other women made him feel alive. And what did I make you feel like, David? I asked. Dead? His lawyer called for a break. David left the room, slammed the door, never came back. In the aftermath, we sat there. Me, the women, our lawyers. No one said anything for a while. Then Jenna spoke up. I'm sorry I ever trusted him. I nodded. Me too. He ghosted everyone after that day. Dropped off the radar. His phone numbers stopped working. Teresa said he might have moved down south. Someone saw his LinkedIn vanish. His accounts? Closed or frozen. His job? Let go quietly once I sent the evidence to HR. That was 6 months ago. Sometimes I wonder if he ever really existed. The man I married. The man I thought I knew. Or if he was just a shell, built from what he thought people wanted him to be. The legal part took time. We settled. I got what I needed. What I was owed. And more importantly, I got my truth back. I still live in Chicago. Still walk the same streets. But I walk differently now. Wiser. Sharper. Harder, maybe. The hardest part? Accepting that someone you loved chose to hurt you. That you slept next to someone who could lie with a straight face and kiss you goodnight right after texting someone else. But the strongest part? I survived it. I'm not sure I believe in love the way I used to. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I believe in myself again. That's more than I had for a long time. And if he ever dares to come back, he'll find a woman who won't flinch. He'll find a woman who isn't scared of truth anymore.